Well, hello and welcome to the very first episode of my podcast. Let's get to it. Let's just call it what it is. The NBA has been taken over. Not slowly, not quietly, but completely. For decades, this league belonged to American born players Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Steph Curry, and all these guys. But today, the best player in the world is not an American. The MVP is not an American. The future of the league is not American. And this isn't just my opinion. This is based on facts. Since the 2018-2019 season, every single NBA MVP has been foreign born. That's not a trend, that's a shift in power. So today, we're breaking it all the way down. How international players took over the MVP race, why they're dominating both ends of the floor, the numbers that show that this didn't happen overnight, what this means for the future of basketball, especially here in the US, and the financial impact that it is having all around the world, and especially in the league itself, the NBA. So, let's start with the most important individual award in basketball, which is the MVP. Like I said, since 2018-2019 season, all the MVPs have been foreign-born players. Giannis, Jokic, Embiid, Jokic, Shai. These are all people that were born outside of the US. That's 7 straight MVPs, all international players. And guess what? They just announced the finalists for this year's MVP. Guess who they are? Jokic, Shai, and Victor Wembanyama. I'm going to make a special episode on Victor Wembanyama because this guy, what he's doing is not supposed to happen. Let's just put it that way. The way he's built and the stuff that he's doing, just not supposed to happen at all. So, like I said, just think about it. International MVPs were very rare back in the day. You know, when I was growing up, I think I've only seen one. This was Hakeem Olajuwon in 93-94 season when Michael retired. This was the year that they won their first championship, the Houston Rockets, and they won back-to-back. After that, it took some time before guys like Dirk Nowitzki and Steve Nash from Canada. I think Steve Nash won it back-to-back. Shaq is still mad about that because he still thinks that he should have won one of those MVPs. But that's another topic for another day. But now, Americans are not even getting into this conversation consistently. I mean, if you look at the top 4 players in the league right now, other than the 3 that I just mentioned, you can add Luka to it. I mean, Luka led the league in scoring this year. So he's definitely dominating. Led the Lakers, to the playoffs, even though, he's injured. I hope he can come back before the end of these playoffs. But, you can make a case maybe for, Kate Cunningham. Too bad, he didn't qualify for any of these postseason awards because of the rule that they have now. You have to play 65 games. Jaylen Brown is doing really, really well this year. But we are talking about players who are more efficient, players who are more versatile. We are talking about players who are more complete. Look at Jokic. Look, Jokic is a center that's running an offense like a point guard. He's leading the league in assists, and he's averaging triple-double. This is not the first time he's done that. And you have somebody like Giannis, who's a 7-foot, attacking like a wing. You have Shai, who's controlling the pace and space at a very, very high level. His game is really smooth. And I was happy that they won the championship last year, So these guys are just not winning MVPs. They're redefining what an MVP looks like. And here's the uncomfortable question that I would like to ask. Are American players falling behind? Or is it the rest of the world just developing better? I'll let you guys answer that. Now, let's talk about my favorite part of the game, which is defense. Because this is where it starts to get interesting. International players are not just offensive engines only. They are anchoring entire defensive systems. Example, Rudy Gobert. He has won, 4 Defensive Player of the Year awards? Dikembe Mutombo has won 4 awards as well. Giannis Antetokounmpo has won this award also. Marc Gasol has won this award as well. And most recently, Victor Wembanyama just got announced yesterday as the Defensive Player of the Year for this year. And what is special about that is that he's the youngest to ever win this award, and he's the first unanimous award winner. That is just special by itself. Nobody has ever won this award unanimously. But let's just be clear: Wemby is not normal. We are talking about a player who can protect the rim, switch onto guards, disrupt passing lanes, and completely alter offensive strategies just by being on the court. He's just not winning awards. He's changing how teams have to play. Now, talking about these foreign born players winning MVPs, Defensive Player of the Year awards, all NBA teams, to me, that's total control of the game. And that's what they're doing. And here's where people get it wrong because they think that these things started happening recently. No. If you've been watching basketball for at least 40 years or so, you will know that people like Akeem Olajuwon that came in the 84 draft with Michael Jordan. Akeem was drafted number 1, Michael was drafted number 3. And if you're wondering who number 2 was, Sam Bowie by the Portland Trailblazers. So Akeem, back in the 80s, it was just probably him and maybe Detlef Schrempf that came a year after. He's from Germany. Those were just the two dominant foreign players back in the 80s. Really not that much. The 90s, things started changing a little bit. You know, the late, great Dikembe Mutombo came. You have some of these Eastern Europeans. You know, Arvydas Sabonis came a little late. He dominated Europe and then came to the NBA when he was, you know, a bit older. You had people like Drazen Petrovic, and sharp shooter, man. Really, really, really good player. Too bad, you know, he passed away, you know, at a very young age. Zydrunas Ilgauskas, Big Z, Vitaly Potapenko, Sarunas Marciulionis, you know, and all these guys, you know, came. Shout out to my guy Yinka Dare, the late great Yinka Dare. Yinka was not the best player, but anytime Yinka got in the game, it was just fun to watch. Shout out to Yinka, rest in peace. Coming to the 90s, you had guys like, you know, Dirk Nowitzki, even though he was drafted in 98. You have guys like Steve Nash from Canada, drafted in the 96 draft, the best draft of all time. You know, that was the draft that Kobe came, Allen Iverson, Stephon Marbury, and Marcus Camby, and those guys, Antoine Walker. And then you have the 2000s, you know, just like I said, you know, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, Boris Diaw, those San Antonio guys, you know, and things started changing. And then by the 2010s and now, man, you have over 120 players or more that are foreign born that are playing in the NBA from about 40 countries or so. So this is just not growth. This is globalization. And shout out to the late, great David Stern, the real commissioner of the NBA. This guy just was the one that put all of these things in place. And when Yao Ming came in the early 2000s, that just changed everything. The finances that we will get to shortly, opening the Chinese market, and the league just blossomed into what it is right now globally. The NBA just didn't expand its reach. It opened the door to the best development systems in the world. That's what it does, you know, with these international players. And once that door opened, it never closed. So let's get real about why this is happening, though, because this is not random. This is about development systems. International players are coming in systems that emphasize fundamentals, team basketball, good decision making, skill over athleticism. But meanwhile, the US players that we have over here, they are leaning heavily into AAUs, you know, this highlight culture, you know, of social media, posting all these dunks and all of that kind of stuff, individual exposure over team structure, you know, and all these things. So, and don't get it twisted, or don't get me wrong. The US still produces elite talent, but the difference is international players are arriving in the NBA already knowing how to play complete basketball. And I've seen this in colleges also, where back in the day you have people like Grant Hill that came into the league in '94. He played 4 years at Duke. when Grant Hill came into the league, he was an all-star as a rookie. He was that good because he was ready. He had a good coach that got him ready. The same with Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan got ready right away because he played 4 years at Wake Forest. He could have left after his freshman year, but he stayed and developed himself. And that's what these international players are doing. When most of them, when they come in, they are ready to compete. I mean, they're just not learning the game at the highest level. They are refining it. And that's a huge advantage that they have. Just like I said, players like Jokic, his IQ is just out of this world. These are the players that are running the league right now, including Luka Doncic, Jamal Murray, who usually goes crazy during the playoffs. And there's so many other international players out there. Shout out to Mo Gay of the Atlanta Hawks. I really love that dude, man. But I mean, that's the future, that's the present, and here's the reality: the league is no longer centered around just one country only. It's global, and the best player in the world, there's a very good chance that he's going to be born outside the U.S. For the foreseeable future. So let's bring it all together. So this is not about the U.S. losing talent. That's not what I'm saying. The U.S. still has great talent. Anthony Edwards, Jason Tatum, Kate Cunningham. These are all elite players. If you go to the Olympics, we saw what happened this past Olympics. LeBron, KD, and Steph Curry, they all stepped up. But the world is catching up. So the real question is, how does the U.S. respond? Do we adjust the way we develop players here? Do we rethink how we train these young kids? Or do we just accept the fact that the game has evolved beyond the U.S. borders? So looking at the financial impact that this is having in the league, you have these international players that just unlock international markets. I talked about it with Yao Ming in China. That was just astronomical, the impact that Yao Ming had in the NBA. Because if you look at it, close to 50% of Chinese adults, they watch NBA content. And that is hundreds of millions. You know what I mean? That's a lot. The NBA has about over 2 billion global fans. And I would say 20 to 30% of those are all Chinese. 75% of all social media followers of the NBA, they reside outside of the US. And look at the media deal that the US just signed, that the NBA just signed, $76 billion. I think that goes through 2035 or so. I think it's a 10-year deal, and international revenue just keeps going up. Fans don't just need, cable to watch games only now. Back in my day, we used to have these tape recordings, that we share between each other, me and some of my friends and stuff. That doesn't happen anymore. They follow these players, and all these players are their own brands nowadays. Just look at LeBron James, worth over $2 billion. Steph Curry, he's going to be getting there sometime soon. Kevin Durant, and all these guys. You know what I mean? So it's the NBA doesn't have to sell games anymore. It sells players to the rest of the world. That is just huge. You look at the total revenue of the NBA. Let's say 2019, they brought in close to $9 billion. 5 years later or so, that number jumped to close to 11. And now the projections now for the 2026 all the way to 2028, you're looking at 12 to $14 billion of revenue. And this is happening with declining US TV TV ratings, changing viewing habits. I don't sit down and watch 2.5 hours of NBA games anymore. No, I don't have that time. And most people don't. But the revenue keeps climbing. So I think, the NBA, just like I said, it has positioned itself in a very, very good place. The fact that they are hosting games in Europe, Mexico, Asia, and exploring, other markets like trying to get into the Euro League, having a European NBA league. That's something that they are seriously looking at right now. They they've already set up the Basketball Africa League, which is now in its fifth season or so. So I think in the NBA investing in all of these things is what's making it not just grow, but it's making it capture some of these markets. So it's a market capturing strategy. That's what they're doing right now. So anytime you see shifts like this happening, it's not random. It's infrastructure, it's development, it's market expansion. And one thing that you can say about the NBA did not lose control of its league. It multiplied its market, you know. And one of the smartest moves that they've made is that they let the best players in the world, regardless of where you're from, become the face of the business or the face of the league. Look at guys like Shai. Shai is now the face of the NBA. If not him, it's probably Luka. If not Luka, it's probably Wemby or Jokic. These are all foreign born players. So I just think that the NBA is well positioned to dominate globally. And this is all because of the efforts of the late, great David Stern. Adam Silver has a lot to do with it too as well. I want to give him credit. I don't agree with everything that he does, especially with this whole tanking and all of this load management stuff. I think he needs to be a little bit more strict on that, but that's another topic for another day. But anyway, thanks guys for hanging out with me. I will hopefully see you in the next coming episode.